What's going on, guys? This is LSU Recruiting HQ. It is February 11th, 2023. And, guys, this is my favorite show to do every year. We are officially under 7 days, 1 week away from the LSU baseball season, the 2023 season kicking off. I'm super excited, man. I know you guys are. The hype around this baseball program is just through the roof right now. And it is my favorite sport, a sport I grew up playing. So it sits close with me. Obviously football reigns supreme around here, but baseball, in the springtime, man, nothing beats the atmospheres and of southeastern baseball, and especially at LSU. That being said, we are going to preview this 2023 LSU Fighting Tigers team, the second year under Jay Johnson. Last year's team, you could say, exceeded expectations, but, as the season goes on, expectations always end up changing. If you would have probably given the scenario they were in preseason, maybe people would have been more receptive. They end up going to a regional, getting knocked out by a great Southern Miss team, who ended up losing in the Super Regional to the eventual national champions in Ole Miss. But LSU accomplished some major things last year with a lackluster pitching staff and a very below average defensive stat line. But they could swing it, man. That was what we were told preseason, that Jay Johnson was going to bring them guys together and figure out the hitting, and that was not a problem. LSU was top 5 in batting average, home runs, RBIs, all that stuff last year in the SEC. And I expected to be similar to that again this year, adding all the talent that they've added. But everybody's going to always go back to the pitching staff, and the fielding from last year is really what set LSU back so far, and really gave them a ceiling that they weren't going to be able to get past. That team last year had pretty much no chance of getting to Omaha with the pitching staff they had. No offense to any of the guys that were pitching last year. Like Mikael Hilliard is a great LSU Tiger, a great pitcher, but he is not a typical Friday night guy in the SEC. And by the end of the season, that was your guy. That was your main pitcher that you were throwing out there every Friday night. It is going to be completely different this year. The roster is constructed with talent and depth, and there is not going to be too many areas where you say LSU has a weak spot here. It might be a spot where there might be some indecisiveness, where they rotate players in and out, but it will not be because of lack of talent, or we just have to throw a guy out there, because that is not going to happen this year, and that's not going to happen with the pitching staff. You add a great addition. Like, this might have been the hire of the year in college baseball, because I follow college baseball pretty closely, and there's not too many teams in the history of college baseball that can say they took a MLB pitching coach off of his active team in the middle of the season while they were in first place, and basically said, hey man, come be the pitching coach at LSU, and he hops on a plane and he's there in 24 hours. And that is exactly what Jay Johnson did when he hired Wes Johnson. And that hire alone is really going to be what sets this team apart, because if this team can pitch just slightly above average, they can still swing it, man. They can swing it with the best of them. Obviously, you have a guy like Paul Skenes coming in from Air Force, projected top pick in the draft, a guy who throws upper 90s, has hit 100 on several occasions. You have a guy like that anchoring that rotation on Friday nights. Jay Johnson said it multiple times that guy is going to pitch on Fridays. So that position is pretty much set and locked. And then you got guys coming back from last year, guys like Ty Floyd, Grant Taylor, incoming freshmen like Chase Shores. Man, there's just so many to name, and I mean, this when you go and look at up and down this roster, you see a lot of familiar faces, but I promise you it's not going to be the familiar faces that you saw last year, though. These guys have transformed their bodies, they have transformed the way they pitch, and this pitching staff as a whole is going to be solid, I believe, and could end up being a strength down the stretch for this LSU team. Obviously, in the preseason, there's not too many flaws to point out, being that we haven't played a single game yet. But I'm sure they will come. No team is perfect, no matter how good your roster is. There's no team out there that's perfect. Everybody's going to have that one thing. And everybody's concern is defense. I don't see that being a concern this year. I like what I've been hearing. I think Jay Johnson's a brutally honest coach, and he would let you know if they were still struggling in that department. And he seems to have full confidence in that defense. So I have confidence until I see it. You have a great outfield. I believe in Jordan Thompson at shortstop. The second base position battle, you're going to have a guy in there. Tommy Tank's playing third, Trey Morgan at first, locking that thing down over there. And then this catching position battle is absolutely astounding. Like, you have two freshmen, Ethan Frey, Jared Jones, and then you have Brady Neal, or three true freshmen. And those three guys could all be the starter. And then you also bring in a guy like Alex Milazzo that's handled the pitching staff before. And he could be an X factor late in the season if he could start swinging the bat a little bit. So there's going to be some guys, there's going to be depth, there's going to be a lot of rotating players throughout the non-conference schedule to figure out what works with what. I look at it like hockey, right? Hockey, each team or each player has a certain line they play on, right? And you play with the same guys on the same line, right? And I think Jay Johnson's going to work it like that, where these guys play better against this situation, and this is what the lineup's going to look like against lefties that throw hard. This is what the lineup's going to look like against lefties that don't throw as hard and more control stuff. This is a guy, right-handers that strike out a lot of batters. This is the lineup for that. I mean, they're just going to have so many different ways they can go. And that is what is so scary about this team, is that when you do change the lineup like that, you feel like there's no drop-off there. This team last year finished the season 40-22, 17-13 in conference play, ended up finishing third in the West, fourth overall in the SEC. They were able to get that bye. This year's schedule doesn't ever do them any favors, man. This is SEC baseball at its finest. You get to host Tennessee. You get your typical guys out the West. And I saw a report the other day that said guy projected every single team from the SEC West not only making the tournament, but hosting a regional. That would be crazy to think of. But that is just what it speaks to, the talent and the dedication to baseball in the Southeastern Conference, and especially in the SEC West, where you were battling every single weekend. Jay Johnson's pointed out, if you don't bring your A game, and you can get ran out of the building in a heartbeat in this league if you don't bring your focus and energy to every single game. There's no days off in the SEC. I don't care if you're playing Missouri, you're playing Arkansas, playing A&M. It doesn't matter. Every single weekend is a grind. And that's why the teams that come out of this league produce so much MLB talent, because there's no drop-off in competition. You're playing the best every single weekend. Like I said, this year's LSU schedule is very unique. You get Tennessee at home. That series alone is going to be crazy. So this is how LSU opens the season, right? An Omaha team and Texas A&M, Arkansas, perennial power in the SEC, right? And then you get Tennessee, and then you go to South Carolina, right? That is your first four SEC series right there. You play two road series, A&M and South Carolina, and then you get the best team in the country from last year in Tennessee, a team that has kicked your behind the last 7 times they played you, haven't beat them in a while. You get them at home, and then you get Arkansas at home, who is one of the biggest rivals in LSU baseball right now. That series is always wacky and wild and full of good baseball. So the schedule gives you no favors. Um, and the expectations on the kids' shoulders right now are just through the roof. I mean, Jay Johnson has said, multiple times that they embrace the challenge. But that is only going to be shown when the games start playing, man. Everybody can talk in front of the microphone, but until that first pitch is thrown, we never know how teams are going to react to the hype. Because when you get ranked number one in 8 preseason polls, there's a lot of people out there that really are telling you how good you are. And like I said, in this league, man, you get humbled quick. There's not a lot of teams that go wire to wire number one. But this team definitely, obviously, has the talent to do stuff like that. It's just a matter of like how they're playing at the end of the year, right? Don't get discouraged if they drop a series early in the year. Figuring things out. This whole process is a waiting process. Obviously, you want to be good enough to where you host a regional, host a super regional, right? You want to be in that top 8 to make the path to Omaha easier. But that's not always a given. I'd much rather be a team that's playing their best baseball in, May, leading into the SEC tournament, leading into, June and the playoff or postseason. You play your best baseball then. Ole Miss proved last year that hosting is not that big a deal. They were a 3 seed in the Coral Gables regional last year in Miami, and they ran through that regional. Went to Southern Miss, obviously an in-state team, but still went to play in a hostile environment, took care of them with ease, and then rolled through Omaha. Man, it's all about how you're playing at what time of the year. You can flare out, in mid-March and peak right there, and then it's you're battling to scrape back the rest of the season. And you run into a hot team like Ole Miss, and then you get put on your butt, and you could easily figure out ways to coerce the season together. And this I mean, we're seriously talking about this could be one of the best LSU baseball teams of all time, the most talented LSU baseball team of all time. Like, you guys know the history of LSU baseball. I mean, that is an amazing thing to say about a team that hasn't even played one game yet. And that is the kind of pressure that is being put on these kids right now. And I feel like they're going to embrace it, because I feel like the work ethic hasn't stopped. I feel like they continue to work because they know they haven't accomplished anything. And if they keep that mentality, look out, man, because this team is loaded. I'm telling you guys, the transfer portal was super big this offseason. They got the guys they wanted. They filled the gaps they needed. They brought in the right coaches to help with this pitching staff. And with all that being said, this team is, Omaha or bust for sure. But, I mean, why not go a step past that and say this team is set to win a national championship? LSU hasn't won a baseball national championship since 2009. That's way too long. And I know fans around LSU and Louisiana are super excited about this year's team. I hope we finally bring that energy back to the box that we had for so long, because the last couple of years, man, it hasn't been there. Where that place is loud and intimidating, and they're hosting regionals and super regionals. That there's nothing like the box on a Friday or Saturday night in the middle of SEC play when a big time opponent's coming to town. And LSU baseball is good, man. There is nothing like it. It's just like football, man. The atmosphere alone in itself is just amazing. But like I said, man, this team is super talented, and I'm super excited to watch them next weekend. They take on Western Michigan to open up the season on Friday night. We will finally get to see this baseball team in action, and we'll see where it goes, man. We'll stay up to date, and we will keep you guys updated on what's going on in the LSU baseball and around the athletics landscape. Obviously, football season never ends, so we'll always be talking about that. But this was kind of like my 2023 LSU baseball preview. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend and have a good Super Bowl weekend. And then we'll be right here back next week, man, talking about LSU baseball, recapping what happened, and breaking everything down. So, like I said, man, hope you guys, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate everything. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel. It's free. All it does is help us out. And we can continue to grow on our platform. Thank you guys.